world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 222 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've heard him on the Saturday morning spread. It is Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Sad that football season is ending, but I am excited for draft season to get here, even though it's maybe not as fun of a draft season as other years, but excited to turn the page at this point. I'm kind of ready to move on, but sad there's not going to be any more days with multiple games. That's the big sad.
Yeah, we get that first preview of what the next 7 months is going to look like this weekend, and don't love it. But
I'm able to get to May. You can get me to the first week of May, get me through the draft. My issue is that May, June, July, that May, June, July slog. Once July's over, the teams are back in training camp. My fantasy drafts start in August usually. Then I'm back in the swing of things. I'm happy. We're doing gambling over-unders, previewing the season. Once I get to season preview pods on the pods I listen to, on our pod and the Saturday morning spread when we'll do that, that's when I'm back and, I don't even care the football's not on yet. At least we're talking about it and it's coming. That May, June, July period, it is brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at least we do have the Pro Bowl to look forward to next weekend.
Yeah.
Did you see my tweet about Shedeur Sanders being named to the Pro Bowl?
You have to imagine, I didn't, but you have to imagine people said no, right?
Yeah. Here, let's play a game then, since you haven't seen the tweet. So when they announced that Shedeur Sanders, first 5th-round pick to make the Pro Bowl since Puka Nacua, blah, 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 I looked up some stats, Mark. There were 37 quarterbacks this year that had 200 or more plays. Okay, so out of those 37, where do you think Shedeur ranked in EPA per play?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's 37th. I'm pretty sure the Browns...
What about success rate?
30.
What about completion percentage?
37.
What about completion percentage over expectation?
I don't know that one. Probably 37.
You are correct. Dead last in all 4 categories.
The funny part about that, I think there's the stat that's over the last 2 years, and the bottom 3 quarterbacks in that stat are Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders.
I can't believe the Browns fired Kevin Stefanski after he took a 5th-round quarterback and made him a Pro Bowler. Just unbelievable.
I know. And Mel Kiper is going to use this to say that the Shedeur should get another chance next year.
Yeah. Man, you got to love the Pro Bowl. My son's all into football, the football stuff. And he's like, can we watch the Pro Bowl this year? I was like, I don't even know if it's on TV anymore, but we can try to find the flag football game if you want to. I was like,
they do skills challenges now, right? Don't they do some skills challenges? That's probably more fun, at least.
Yeah, they do a flag football game too, I think. But yeah, it's all kind of silly. But that's fine. At least now we've the Pro Bowl was meaningless 8 years ago. At least we're at a point now where it's openly mocked and shunned by NFL people, and I don't have to defend the player XYZ was a Pro Bowler anymore.
I'm fully anti All-Star games in general. I don't care about the NBA All-Star game. I never have. People are like, we have to fix the NBA All-Star game. We have to get them to care. And I'm like, my whole life they haven't really cared. People say Kobe made people care. I remember those games. They were still 165 to 160. People didn't care until the last 2 minutes of the game if it was close, if it happened to be close. MLB All-Star Game, people would say, oh, well, back in the day, it used to determine home field advantage in the World Series. Well, I don't want an 85-win team from the AL having home field advantage over a team that won 100 games because the fifth-place Colorado Rockies second baseman, who they had to have a guy on the All-Star team because every team in baseball gets an All-Star, struck out in the ninth inning. And that's why this 85-win team gets it over this 100. Like, that's even dumber, trying to make the All-Star game matter. And now that it doesn't matter, why watch? So I get the catch-22 of it. My ultimate stance is just announce who the All-Stars are, like the All-Pro team, and don't play a game. Like, I like the All-Pro team. I care about who makes the All-Pro team. I don't care about who makes any of the All-Star games.
Yeah, that's a good take. Or you've got to come up with some sort of skill competition that makes it worth watching. Like the home run derby's interesting.
I like the home run derby. I'm even a defender of the slam dunk contest. People are like, oh, it's not fun anymore. They've done all the dunks. There was one, like the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine one, I think is 2018. That's one of the best ones ever. And has there been crappy ones? Absolutely. And there's going to be more, I'm sure. But just for the chance that one time in 3 years, there's another really fun night, it's worth keeping that tradition going. The All-Star games.
Yeah. The problem is the NFL just doesn't have any, there's not a skill competition in the NFL that has that draw. And maybe that's because it hasn't been around as long, or maybe it's just because it's just harder to break down skills for football, which I think is probably the real heart of the issue there.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But anyways, believe it or not, I didn't come here to talk about all-star games. We came here to talk about championship games. And so we're going to dive in and talk about the AFC and NFC championship games. We'll give you our recaps and our top takeaways. Little programming note is next week we will preview the Super Bowl and talk some coaching stuff if anything has fallen into place. The following week, we will recap the Super Bowl, and then we'll start to get into some draft content headed into the NFL offseason. But let's dive into the AFC Championship game first. Snowmageddon in Denver. The Patriots win 10-7, and Denver struck first on their second drive when Jared Stidham hit Marvin Mims for a 52-yard gain. Just burns Christian Gonzalez. I don't know if Christian Gonzalez is just sitting on routes because it wasn't even like a double move. He just ran by him. But they scored 2 plays later. And then they were driving again in the second quarter when they went for it on 4th and 1 from the New England 14, and they failed to get it. You had people online, there was sports shows talking about this is why analytics is running football. And I loved that Greg Olson, who's a national treasure, by the way, quote tweeted one of those. And he's like, yeah, except the analytics said not to go for it there, because they absolutely did. That's what I love, that when going for it on 4th down works, teams are like, oh, this coach is a winner. He plays to win. And if you don't get it, you're like, analytics is ruining the game. But I thought that was...
Unless you're Dan Campbell, and then you don't get criticized at all.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I thought it was a really bad call before I looked up the analytics chart for it. I mean, you're playing as a big underdog in a game where weather is moving in, and you have you held the Patriots to 12 yards on their first 3 drives. I would maybe take the points to go up 10. With weather moving in, but they didn't, and it does end up costing them in the game. But New England scored their first touchdown after a bonehead Jared Stidham sack fumble that gave him the ball to 12, which is another one of my pet peeves in NFL officiating. He fumbles the ball, and the Patriots pick it up with a clear path to the end zone, and they blow the play dead. Honestly, I don't care if you're 98% sure it was an incomplete pass. Just let it play out and then talk about it, because you can always come back after a conference and say it was incomplete. You can't come back after a conference and say, you know what, we shouldn't have blown the whistle, it's a touchdown. I hate when they do that. If there's nobody around to make a play, a tackle, I get if there's a mob of players or something, you don't want to let a tackle happen, but let that play out. But bonehead play by Jared Stidham, who I thought had played good till that point, and then it kind of fell apart. Drake May only goes 10-21 in the game for 86 yards. He had 5 sacks, but he did rush for 65 yards and a touchdown. And Denver, however, just couldn't run the ball. Excluding QB scrambles, they had 2.8 yards per carry, which is not ideal in a snowstorm with a backup quarterback. And so, honestly, the difference in this game was Drake May not turning the ball over and Jared Stidham turning it over twice. He had the fumble and he had a pick. And so the Patriots go on to win. Drake May becomes the first quarterback with 3 playoff games against top 5 defenses in a single postseason. And we can talk about, like, man, the Patriots have had an easy path, and they have to a degree. They played a ghost of a Chargers team. They played a Broncos team with a backup quarterback. We can say, man, Drake May hasn't looked very good. He played 3 top 5 defenses, and you could talk about the Chargers' injuries. Those were on the offensive line. You can talk about Denver's injuries. That was their quarterback. Like, Drake May has played pretty full-strength defenses, and he hasn't looked great at times. It's his first playoff run, and he's had a tremendously difficult path to get here. So I'll be interested to see what he can do against a Seattle defense that we'll get to in a minute, but they suddenly looked vulnerable to the Rams. What were your takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I thought Sean Payton made the wrong decision in the first quarter. As someone who had a big future on the Patriots to win the AFC, I was rooting for them to go for it in that spot because it felt like it handed the Patriots a chance at momentum, which it did. But also, I don't think Sean Payton should be killed because even I think there's some weather models out there that are basically saying it was like shocking that it got that snowy. People were not expecting it to. People expected snow in the forecast, but people did not think it would have that fast of a change. I mean, I don't know if we've ever seen a game like that went from being, I mean, it was cold in the first half, and clearly it was still affecting the offenses in the first half, but it became not even visible out there. So it was such a quick change, and there wasn't a lot to predict that was going to happen. So I don't want to kill him too much for it. I understand kind of going for the kill, 14-0. You don't know how many more times you're going to get down there. I think people have used the fact that they had a backup quarterback in there to like kill that decision. But I also understand the flip side of it, where you don't know how many times you're going to make a drive that deep into the end zone. It's also early in the game. You didn't know how low scoring it was going to be. So I thought he made the wrong call, but I also understood it. So I don't want to kill Sean Payton too much for that. In terms of the Patriots, and we'll get more into this, previewing the Super Bowl as the next 2 weeks go. I do think in general, year after year, I think cold weather teams that have to play multiple games in freezing temperatures in the playoffs or in the snow in the playoffs, I think sometimes we talk about those games after the fact, like they should have like scored a bunch of points. What comes to mind to me is the Packers game last year, Packers-Eagles in the wild card round, where we won 22-10, but a lot of that was because we recovered a fumble on the kickoff and had to go like 15 yards to score a touchdown. So really you could say that game was more like 15-10. And the offense was bad in that game, and it was miserable. And people the next day came out like, oh, these offenses were horrible. The Packers need to move on from Jordan Love, and the Eagles, they're not going to make it any further with that. They're going to lose to the Rams because they can't move the ball. I guess people were a year early. But I do think consistently we underrate how insane it is in some of these cold weather situations for offenses to try to move the ball and to grip the ball. And maybe that's why we obviously have seen more fumbles. Now, Drake May's had fumbling issues outside of that. He obviously didn't do that in this game, which was a positive despite, having 86 yards or whatever the total was. But I do think there's a chance that the Patriots get out there in the Super Bowl. And despite Seattle being a really good defense, I think it might look like a little bit of a different sport offensively for New England not playing in freezing temperatures. They've had 3 straight games under 32 degrees, 2 straight games in the snow. I understand Seattle's a good D, but they're going to be playing that game in San Fran. I think it's supposed to be pretty nice weather. I think that's going to look a lot different. Now, does the offensive line hold up? I'm sure there's going to be moments of the game where it does not. But I do think New England's going to be able to move the ball and probably convert in the red zone in a better way than what we've been able to see recently, if I had to guess. So I guess that's not as much of a recap of this game. As I think this is less of a Patriots-Broncos point and just a cold weather playoff point in general. Sometimes I think we get a little crazy talking about these games.
Yeah, snow playoff games suck, too. I know that's an unpopular opinion.
I'll let you go. Here's your pedestal to stand on here.
Yeah, they suck. Like, I know they're nostalgic and they look cool on TV, but like you can't watch that game and not say that a 3-point game felt totally out of reach in the fourth quarter because of the weather. And I just hate that. At least if it's a regular season game, it's just a game. But and I understand like the quarterback play wasn't great. The defenses were really good before that, but I don't enjoy watching when the weather is like that. The product on the field is not as good. And when that's one game in a regular season, it's a blip on a radar. But when it's an AFC championship game, it just makes for a worse viewing product. And I hate that. So, the NFL does too. That's why the Super Bowl is never played in a cold weather stadium that doesn't have a roof at least. But it was a shame to me that and obviously, like, this game, the juice going into this game was down a little bit because of the Bo Nix injury already, but it just stinks to me that this is the game that we got. And I know people will say weather is a part of the sport, whatever. Well, it doesn't have to be. And so that's kind of the thing for me. Like, I know it looks cool when I play Madden, like when I want to see what the graphics look like in the new year, the first thing I do is toggle on a snow game because I think it looks awesome. But the reality is it negatively impacts the product on the field. I mean, we literally saw a play where the Patriots tried to call a run and the running back slipped trying to like push off the ground to take the handoff. And so Drake May is left like, oh crap, what do I do? I've got to run. And then he slipped and fell down. Like, that's what I don't want to see in an NFL game. And so I thought it was a bummer weather-wise. And I know people pound the table for snow games, but I kind of hate them.
I'm in the middle on it. I see both sides. And we've talked about it before. But Sam Block, this tweet I was looking it up, so I had to remember to say it. AFC champ by season. 2016 Patriots, 2017 Patriots, 2018 Patriots, 2019 Chiefs, 2020 Chiefs, 2021 Bengals. Good job, Bengals. 2022 Chiefs, 2023 Chiefs, 2024 Chiefs, 2025 Patriots. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson should print out that tweet, and not even print it out, actually. Do the Jalen Hurts. That should be your screensaver for the next 12 months. Should be that tweet about the Patriots and the Chiefs owning the AFC for your entire career. There's a lot of, there's a really funny meme. I don't think Shane's a WWE guy at all, but there was an Undertaker meme where, the Chiefs are dead and buried here, and then they rise up and it's the Patriots all of a sudden out of the casket, and people are like, oh my God. But it's unbelievable if you're the Buffalo Bills, and there's a lot of fan bases that hate the Patriots, right? Like, Eagles fans hate the Patriots. I've seen a lot of Eagles fans complaining. It's like, you won the Super Bowl 12 months ago. Relax. And we've also, we got our comeuppance on the Patriots. Like, we're good with who cares? Jets fans, obviously, they own them. They're going to be upset. But whatever. There's a lot of fan bases that hate the Patriots, and I get why. If you're a Bills fan, having watched the dynasty crumble, and the Bills were starting to be relevant towards the end of that dynasty. So, Josh was in some big games with Brady at the end. And then you watch that crumble and you take over. You're the class of the AFC East. You're making fun of the Patriots probably a lot online. I mean, I know a Bills fan who is nasty to Patriots fans. Was nasty to Patriots fans all year in this one group chat that I'm in about how easy the schedule was, expecting, to beat them when they got to the playoffs. And to watch the Patriots crumble, stink for a good stretch of time, rise up again, and make the Super Bowl again before you ever got there. While you had an elite team. They're the first team in NFL history to win a playoff game for 6 straight years and not make the Super Bowl. And in that 6-year span, you watch the Patriots die at the beginning of it and resurrect at the end of it. And I don't know.
All they had to do was fire Bill Belichick, and the dynasty was restored.
And Gerard Mayo, a pit stop in between there. It's unbelievable. I mean, I don't know why I've been so keyed on it. I can't stop thinking about it. If you're a Bills fan, I don't even know how you deal with the last 8-9 days. Going from immediately losing in a heartbreaking fashion. You have the bad calls to deal with. Then your head coach gets fired. Your owner comes out and makes a mockery of himself and the GM as the GM tries to not take accountability for stuff, and people are leaking videos of that directly refute what he said. And then in the meantime, the Broncos quarterback who beat you gets hurt, and they have a backup going against your rival the next week, and your rival gets to go to the Super Bowl again. I don't think I've ever been through anything. And Philadelphia fans, we like to talk about how pained we are and how much torture we're put through and yada, yada, yada. I don't think I've been through anything like what the Bills fans have been through, let alone the last 6 years. Just the last 9 days. Like, I don't think I've ever had a week like that in my life. And by the way, we're talking about a franchise that lost 4 straight Super Bowls, like, not that long ago. Like, people were very much alive for that are still around today. It was the early 90s. So it is, I mean, we talk about tortured fan bases. We talk about it all the time. Man, I don't know how you're waking up and going to work as a Bills fan, not to mention there's like 3 feet of snow in Buffalo right now. So it's just, oh my God, it must be absolute torture.
Yeah. The first thing that popped into my head when you're listing off those AFC champions is, man, Zach Taylor just still riding off that 2021.
After reading that, maybe he deserves to. Nobody else has done it.
It's gone 36-31 over the next 4 years. Hasn't finished within the top 2 of his own division in 3 straight years, and he's still just there clinging on to that job.
The one man. I'm the one man who did it. I'm the one guy who broke the cloak, or whatever you want to call it, the cloak of invincibility, not invisibility this time. But it is. Of course, I focused on the Bills. The Ravens should be just as upset that they let this decade go through their. But at least the Ravens, I guess the Bills did something about it too. They both got rid of the head coach. But man, I just brutal. If you're one, I'll say this though. I know a lot of people out there. Everybody's the memes about the Seahawks. The whole country's rooting for the Seahawks, besides the little dot up there in New England. And I get it. I think the Patriots making this Super Bowl is far more interesting than if we would have had to talk Stidham for 2 weeks. But I'll say this: I think it's even more interesting than if Bo Nix would have stayed healthy and made the Super Bowl. How interesting of a storyline are the Broncos? I don't know. Like, I think the Patriots, you've got Vrabel. I think Vrabel's more fun than Sean Payton. Sean Payton is not a good guy. Not that Vrabel's like a great guy, but like, I think you can do the Vrabel puff pieces about he got fired 2 years ago and he's right back in it. And they
take that, Titans.
Yeah. Like with Sean Payton, where it's like, what's the angle? Like, you hated this guy and you probably still think he's an a-hole, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's a lot there. Bo Nix, I guess there's some interesting stuff there. I think it's more interesting, this Drake May story. Like, he was supposed to be the runner-up to the MVP, kind of the heir apparent, one of these top 5 guys, and he has not looked great in the playoffs. But yet, here he is in the Super Bowl, and if you go have your big moment and your big day, people are going to be putting you in those top 5 conversations right away, and nobody's going to be talking about, the last 3 playoff games. People are going to quickly forget about how he's looked so far in the playoffs. And I'll just say this early, I'm not giving a prediction on who's going to win the game. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think Drake May is going to have a good day. Yeah. I think Drake May is going to turn things around. It's going to look like a little bit of a different sport out there, not in the cold weather. My favorite bet as of right now is Drake May over 220.5 passing yards in that game. I know the Seahawks are a good defense. They did just give up 479 yards in the game we're about to talk about to the Rams. So, and that was at home. So I do think Drake May will redeem himself in the Super Bowl. That's my biggest, above anything that happens in the game. I think May has a good day.
Yeah, the Titans, man, they fire Vrabel. And in the 2 years since, they have 6 total wins. And Vrabel goes and takes the Patriots from a 4-win team to a 14-win team in his first season in New England. So, shout out to the Titans, too, for aiding the Patriots' dynasty return.
I think the stat, I want to get the stat right here, looking at the schedule. Vrabel has as many wins as the Titans have since firing him since December 21st.
Yeah.
He's won 6 straight games. So we've won the final 3 games and then 3 games in the playoffs. That's unbelievable. That's an unbelievable stat.
Yeah. 2 other things I'll shout out from this game. Milton Williams and Elijah Ponder for New England tied with 4 pressures each in this game. Milton Williams, obviously, Eagles fans know, was a signing by the Patriots in free agency. All he does is go to Super Bowls, I guess. 3 of his 4 pressures were quick pressures under 2.5 seconds, despite the fact he faced a double team on 40% of his pass rush reps. And then Elijah Ponder is a UDFA rookie. And so that's a cool story as well. The other one I'll mention, the Patriots have averaged 18 points per game in this postseason, which is the fewest by any team to make a Super Bowl since the 1979 Rams. So you mentioned the cold weather aspect of it, the defensive aspect of it. So a lot of stuff going on there.
You know who really impressed me on the defensive side of the ball? K'Lavon Chaisson. They've kind of like revived him. He was where did he get drafted? His first round pick was Jacksonville. Yeah,
sounds right. Sounds like a guy the Jags would draft.
Got drafted in Jacksonville, and over his first 4 years, 5 sacks. This year, he went to the Raiders last year and had a big 5 sacks last year with the Raiders. This year, 7.5 sacks with New England, and really taking a step. He had a play late in the game where Stidham on third down tried to scramble. He was coming around the edge, and Stidham went up the middle, and Chaisson fully turned his momentum of where he was going on the field in the driving snow and went and made the tackle and Stidham would have got there if it wasn't for him, I think. And it was like 4th and 4 instead of a first down conversion. It was a huge play by Chaisson. And obviously Milton Williams really the guy's a stud. Is there, before I get to a question about Milton Williams, did you see the nugget about Vrabel asking the locker room after they beat the Texans if anybody was playing football at this time last year, and nobody raised their hand except Milton Williams, and Vrabel said, "Get your damn hand down."
No, I didn't see that.
It was pretty funny. And then Milton Williams said Vrabel told the team that if you're not on the bus at 8, you're allowed to do whatever you want tonight, but if you're not on the bus at 8 a.m. tomorrow, you're not playing in the Super Bowl.
I saw that.
It's pretty funny. Milton Williams' dad was going around the stadium doing the belt, the BTA thing that he was doing at the Eagles parade around the Broncos stadium to the Patriots fans. I'm so happy for Milton Williams. He was awesome. It was such a fun part of the Eagles Super Bowl run last year. Made himself so much money. Is there any way the Eagles could have paid him? No. Like, is there any way they could have been like, all right, well, we're not going to pay X down the line and we'll make it like, is there anything we could have done?
I don't think so. Not for what he got paid. I mean, I thought when he got paid, like, I knew that wasn't going to happen. But then when the contract was announced, I was like, holy crap. I didn't think it was going to be that high. I mean, he got paid $26 million AAV, which is second only to Chris Jones. Like, there's no way.
I don't know if you remember this, but the whole offseason, everybody like assumed he was a Panther. It was like, oh, Milton Williams, he's going to Carolina. Like, people were like, 4 years, $80 million. And I was like, 4 years, 80? I was like, could we get there? Like, could we like try to move some things around and do it? Like, I've always been a Milton Williams guy, and I believed in the breakout. And honestly, like, you have Carter, Davis, Ajomo, like, you're still doing pretty well in that department. But you have to pay Davis and Ajomo here coming up soon. You're obviously going to pay Carter. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably nothing they could have done with $26 million AAV, but man.
Yeah, I don't think so. I was going to try to look up what was his. I had in my head that Moro Ojomo's pass rush win rate was pretty comparable to Milton Williams, but now I can't find that anywhere. I actually think it might be higher than Milton Williams.
I know that there was people comparing Ojomo's year. I saw like there was an article, I forget who did it, but there was an article about how Ojomo was having Milton Williams' year from last year, and Jalix Hunt was having Nolan Smith's year from last year. You could kind of like tie both of them together as like the way the seasons went on, especially. Obviously, the offense didn't hold up their end of the bargain on that. Neither did the rest of the defense, but we're not here to talk.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into the NFC Championship game. This was a lot more fun game to watch. Rams lose, 27-31. All season, we said, this defense is so good, you just need Darnold to manage games and not implode. Well, the defense gave up a 90th percentile performance by EPA per drive, but Sam Darnold put up a 91st percentile game and carried this team to the Super Bowl. I mean, Darnold goes 25 of 36 for 46 yards and 3 touchdowns. He largely did it with no running game. They had 2.9 yards per carry from running backs, and it was his highest pass yard total of the season. Furthermore, all 3 of his touchdown passes came under pressure, which is when he fell apart last year when pressured, which makes him the first quarterback with 3 touchdown passes under pressure in a playoff game in the next-gen stats era, which goes back to 2016. And beyond that, they get the ball back up 4 with 5 minutes left, and they put the ball in Darnold's hands multiple times, including letting him throw on a 2nd and 10 with 3:05 left, and the Rams were out of timeouts. They could have easily run the ball twice and punted to pin the Rams 80 to 90 yards from the end zone with 90 seconds left and no timeouts. It's what the Eagles would have done because they're cowards. The Seahawks didn't do it. They went for it, and they won the game off a Sam Darnold completion. I mean, they did still punt, but it was with like 12 seconds left. Darnold was awesome in this game. Stafford was awesome in this game too. He goes 22 of 35, 374 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was 7 of 11 for 226 yards on deep passes, over 20 air yards, which is the 3rd most deep passing yards allowed in a game in a decade. And so this Seahawks defense that's been so acclaimed all season long had an all-time bad performance against deep balls in this game, and it didn't end up mattering. What did matter was 2 early field goals in this game by the Rams, and I mean, they kicked one on a 4th and 10 and on a 4th and 19, so these weren't like you could potentially go for it situations. But it was what is going on with the screen here? Okay. It was a poor performance by the Seahawks defense. It was an even worse performance special teams wise for the Rams once again. Trailing 17-13, they forced a punt, and then the returner, who had already bobbled one earlier, tripped over his own feet, and the ball like lands on him and bounces off for the Seahawks to recover. They scored a play later. I also thought there was some interesting stuff going on 2-point-wise that got talked about, and so with 2:06 left in the 3rd quarter, the Rams scored a touchdown to make it and they kicked an extra point to go down 4 instead of going for 2. I thought that was a bad decision. In the same way that, like, the down 14, you score a touchdown, you go for 2 thing. There, I feel like you should be going for 2. Let's get it to a 3-point game, and if you fail and you give up a field goal, it's still an 8-point game. So it's basically a way to try to make yourself need a field goal instead of a touchdown. And I thought they should have gone for that. I think that's pretty well borne out, and they didn't. They also went for it on 4th and 4 from the Seattle 6 with down 4 with 4:59 left. I did think that one was the right decision. Analytics backed that one up as well, but some interesting discussions that can be had about that. But receivers went off in this game. Quarterbacks went off. Jackson Smith and Jigba had 153 yards and a touchdown. They ran him from everywhere. Tight alignment, slot, wide from the backfield. He caught a touchdown out of the backfield. Puka Nacua had 165 yards and a touchdown, and Darnold and Stafford had 2 of the 6 highest passer ratings ever among quarterbacks with 30 or more pass attempts in a conference championship game. It was a wild performance, great offensive football, and ultimately the Seahawks move on to the Super Bowl behind their offense instead of their defense, which I don't think is what anybody expected.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to pull this tweet up the whole time. I'm used to, on our old thing, we can just pull it up and leave it on the side. But we do a lot of draft content, Shane and I, and we give a lot of takes out there, right? And a lot of them are going to be wrong, a lot of them are going to be right, and a lot of them are going to be somewhere in the middle where it's not really worth bringing back up most of the time. But we live for, every once in a while, you nail a take. And I don't know if I've nailed a take as much. And Shane, maybe you can refute me if I'm wrong, if I'm forgetting a guy that I was even more right on outside of Notre Dame guys. And my tweet from February 2023, Jackson Smith and Jigba is stupid good. Feels like he'd be a no doubt top 10 pick if he played this year. He was hurt that year. If you leave JSN outside of your top 20, you will regret it when he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. I undershot that. He is not one of the best receivers in the NFL. He is the best receiver in the NFL. And it's unbelievable. And anybody who I've weirdly seen a lot of like, why is Clint Kubiak a hot candidate? He's only been a good play caller for 1 year. He's with the Saints last year. How could you watch the Jackson Smith and Jigba breakout this year? Go look at the route trees that he runs every game and how insane the options that he's given. He runs like 30 routes differently a game, as opposed to a certain team that runs 50 hitches a game. JSN, what Clint Kubiak is, and obviously most of this is on JSN. The talent was there. He was amazing last year. I think he finished as like the number 10 receiver in fantasy last year, and he's grown each year he's been in the league. But even I, as being the guy who had him top 5 or 6 in his draft, had him as a clear wide receiver 1 in his draft, 6 in that draft, as someone who thought he could be one of the best receivers in the league, I don't think I ever thought he could be the best guy, like a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase level guy. And that's what he is. And I don't know how many times there were 3 or 4 balls he caught in this game. There wasn't anyone near him. He gets separation in a way that's just different. Puka's similar. Puka gets crazy separation as well. But JSN's different. And I love Puka as a football player. Let me emphasize that.
Yeah.
Not a good person, but JSN is on a different level. We see that the wide receiver belt shifts so often. Cooper Kupp had it for a little. Justin Jefferson had it for a little. Jamar had it for a little. I'd say Puka had it at one point this year, probably. Devontae had it years ago. I'd say the receiver belt of best in the world shifts more than maybe best quarterback or pass rusher or corner. Like, I think those things stay a little bit more stagnant. But right now, JSN has the belt, and I feel like you covered the Darnold piece of it. So I don't know. He was amazing in this game. And that's part of the whole Darnold thing is like, and you said it, we said like, all you have to do is be a game manager. But the thing about Darnold is he's not. He's not a game manager. He's this guy who tries to make unbelievable throws and has the arm talent to do it. But that gets you in trouble sometimes. And it got him in trouble when he was seeing ghosts, which the Ghost Bowl here with the Patriots, it's coming up in 2 weeks. And what happens is you're either probably going to get excellent or bad from Sam Darnold most of the time. You're very rarely going to get the in the middle outcome. And you got the 100th percentile excellent outcome in this game against the Rams. I mean, pretty much, unless I'm forgetting a mistake he made. I thought he was darn near perfect in this game. And JSN, I already touched on it. But one more thing I'll talk about, and the stats don't reflect this, only 3.3 yards per carry. It only had a long rush of 11 yards. But he did have 4 catches of 49. I thought Kenneth Walker was unbelievable in this game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of plays that I thought should have been negative plays that maybe went for 4 or 5. Maybe plays that should have went for 3 or 4 that went for 8 or 9 yards. Like, I thought that the Seahawks offense in general was just perfect. Clint Kubiak should have every remaining team upping their offer after that game.
Yeah, I was going to try to look up, see what his rushing yards over expectation for the game was, because I'm with you. Like, the stats didn't turn out great, but I thought he was so good in this game, and I'm having a hard time pulling that up now, but I thought he was really good.
And again, like, even with the 4 catches for 49 yards, like, I feel like there was 1 or 2 of those that he turned into way. I know that there was one that he got, it was like within their own 20, and they threw it to him on a little out route, and he totally cut on a dime and turned it back to the middle of the field and got the first down. I think it was towards the end of the game. Might have been on their last drive, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he was awesome in this game. And then, the Rams side of things, I thought Chris Shula had his pants pulled down in this game. I gave Chris Shula a lot of credit for how he handled Ben Johnson last week, and I thought they did a great job defensively in that game. But in this game, I thought Clint Kubiak had that guy, tortured. He couldn't get a thing right. It felt like couldn't get a stop when he needed it so often in this game.
Yeah, I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was now, took Dan Orlovsky to task for after the first matchup, like tweeting about how awesome Shula was, and
yeah,
and then he was like, they lost this season when they promoted Shula or whatever, and somebody dug up the old tweet and blasted him about it, and I thought that was pretty funny.
That is funny. And by the way, it's like, it shows the thing we've been talking about with the Rams defense. They were turnover dependent. Like, all year long, it came down to how many turnovers. And last week, we praised Shula. We praised the Rams defense. What did they do? They forced 3 picks by Caleb in that game. What did they not do in this game? Force a turnover. What happened? They weren't good. Like, more than any team I can remember, this was a turnover-dependent defense. And that first matchup with Seattle that you brought up, what did they do? They got Darnold to throw, what was it, 5 picks? 4 picks
4
in that game? 4? So, yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else that you want to mention on this game?
I kind of touched on it with the Drake May thing, but there's going to be a lot of talks about how great the Seattle defense is, and they are. They held the Rams to 1 for 8 on third down. That's a great job. But this is still a game that they gave up. They gave up 374 passing yards. They got 1 sack. They had a bad pressure rate. They gave up 26 first downs. They gave up 8.3 yards per play. They gave up 9 yards. Like, this was not a good performance by this defense. And also, they were successful on the ground, too. The Rams had 22 carries for 114 yards. And if you take the quarterback and receiver out of it, that's 19 carries for, I guess, 94 yards, which is still really darn good. So this was I think that we're going to get to previewing the Super Bowl more. I think this is an over game. I think this is going to be a game there's a lot of points, 31-30, 31-28. I think it's going to be, similar to this game that we just saw with Rams Seahawks in my.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our conference championship game recaps. Like I said, we'll be back next week to do some Super Bowl preview stuff. But Mark, I'll kick the ball over to your court. Anything you want to talk about coaching carousel wise, some of the moves that have been finalized since we last recorded?
Trying to remember. Let's start with the big one, I guess, that is worth making fun of, I guess is the way to say it. Mike McCarthy going to Pittsburgh, which I've seen a lot of the Spider-Man meme, like Tomlin pointing at Mike McCarthy. Let me just be clear. That is disrespectful to Mike Tomlin, who I think that the stat is Mike Tomlin has a win percentage like 63%. Mike McCarthy has a win percentage of 60%, and he had Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott for the entirety of that. Mike Tomlin's had a similar or better win percentage since Ben Roethlisberger retired than Mike McCarthy's career win percentage, which mostly includes Aaron Rodgers games. So it's disrespectful to say that there's been a lot of like stagnant. How could you hire another floor raiser guy? Like, let's not act like what they hired is the same thing as what they had. They dramatically downgraded. And I'm not even someone who hates Mike McCarthy that much. Like, I think there's some stuff out there, people saying, like, why are people hating on Mike McCarthy but praising John Harbaugh? And you know what? I think there's some validity to that. I don't think that that's that crazy. I think that's more about John Harbaugh being overrated than it is about Mike McCarthy being underrated, if I had to kind of plant my flag there. But I do understand the sentiment that maybe we make fun of Mike McCarthy too much for being, fat and he was the Dallas coach and Jerry Jones's lackey, and he was the guy who held back Aaron Rodgers all those years. And I get it. But in this situation, to go from Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy is a joke. Like, if you're moving on from Mike Tomlin, which I guess it wasn't really their choice. I guess Tomlin left. But they needed to move on and rebuild. Very young guy, bring in the next Tomlin or the next OC that's going to change the culture of Pittsburgh. Going from Tomlin to McCarthy, and I know I just made fun of the stagnant nature of it, and I don't agree that that's what they did, but there's no defense for it. And there's like the defense of, oh, he's from Pittsburgh. The fans aren't happy. If you hired the guy from Pittsburgh, like, I get doing that in some cases, like college guy, like happens a lot in college. Like, you hire an alumni and the fan base is happy. You feel like you have one of your own. The NFL is not college. Like, we don't care if you're from Pittsburgh. Like, what are your thoughts, Shane?
I saw somebody posted, and I don't remember who it was. Somebody said that moving on from Mike Tomlin and hiring Mike McCarthy is like if you pooped your pants and then changed your shirt.
Yeah.
Support for this show and the Fans First Sports Network comes from Strong Coffee Company. Elevate your coffee routine with Strong Coffee Company's Black Instant Blend and Lattes. Both feature organic coffee, protein, MCTs, and adaptogens for sustained energy and mental clarity. With quick delivery and exceptional taste, their coffee is a convenient option and a nutritious addition to your daily routine. Experience a healthier, most productive day with Strong Coffee Company. Visit strongcoffeecompany.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. Again, strongcoffeecompany.com, FFSN.
I will say this. If you want to put the positive spin on it, I don't like the hire, but if you want to put the positive spin on it, sometimes you just need a change. And I think the Steelers were probably getting to that point with Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin's probably a good coach. I think Mike Tomlin has been stuck in the same cycle for a long time, and some of that is maybe his fault. A lot of it is the never bad enough to get the quarterback sort of situation. Never good enough to win, never bad enough to get the quarterback, and that's a bad place to be. So, does he bear some culpability in that? I know he's done a good job of managing some weird personalities in that locker room over the years with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and, just a lot of Aaron Rodgers now, DK Metcalf, like a lot of this stuff. George Pickens, yeah. So I think he's done a good job from that aspect of it, but the offense has been an issue ever since Ben Roethlisberger left. And at a certain point, if you can't be positioned to get the quarterback, you've got to have somebody that can make it work with a Sam Darnold, whatever you can bring in, and that just hasn't happened. So I think Tomlin is still probably a good coach. I do think he's a floor raiser, not a ceiling raiser. I think he's going to have the right circumstance to ever really make the Super Bowl, make another Super Bowl run like he did in the past. It's not saying it's not possible. So maybe it's just time for a change. I mean, Eagles fans know that very well with Andy Reid. It was time for Andy Reid to go, and it didn't mean he wasn't a good coach. And maybe that's where the Steelers were with Mike Tomlin. I don't like the McCarthy hire. I think if you want to put a spin on it that makes it good, you can talk about the fact that he has worked with Aaron Rodgers. He has worked with Dak Prescott. Now, did he develop either of those guys? Maybe not, but maybe there's an element of understanding offense. And I mean, there's no disputing the fact that when Kellen Moore left Dallas for Los Angeles, the offense was still good. So, I mean, do you want to give that credit to Mike McCarthy? Do you want to say it wasn't Mike McCarthy, it's all Dak? I don't know, but maybe you can, if you squint and look at it hard enough, you can say, hey, we needed a change. He's proven that he can run offenses, and so that's why we went with that move. Again, I don't love it. Would it shock me if the Steelers were a 4 or 5 win disaster next year? No. Would it shock me if they win 10 or 11 games? It wouldn't. And so I think it was a change. I think they probably needed to make a change. I don't know if it was the right change, but if I was trying to sell it to somebody, as I've done to a Steelers fan of mine, that's probably the way I would try to sell it. It's not what I would have done, but I think there's a way you can squint and look at it and convince yourself maybe it'll work.
I think it would shock me if they won 11. You could convince me in the 8 to 10 range next year, maybe, but I do think it's more likely they're 6, 7, 8 wins next year. And but let's move on. Let's get to the next one.
I will say this: I would have taken a swing, go after a young up and comer instead of a retread. At that point, you've been stuck in mediocrity so long, go for the big. Mike McCarthy is competent, right? You don't get out of the cycle of mediocrity with a safe, competent hire. So I would have swung for somebody that had coffee with Sean McVay one time that's 30 years old. Yeah. And maybe he's terrible because you hired him too early and he wasn't ready, and you bought him out and fire him, and then you get somebody else and they come in and work with the number 1 pick. Or maybe he's awesome. So I would have gone for the team that should be hiring a McCarthy, a Tomlin, is a team like the Browns or the Titans or Arizona. It's not a team that's already in mediocrity. That's where you want to take the big swing to either get to the next level or bottom out so you can reset this thing.
Perfectly said. That's I was going to say something in the same lines of, if Arizona or Cleveland makes this hire, my reaction's a lot different. It's a lot.
I even said at one point when Stefanski and Tomlin were both gone, I was like, if they just swapped coaches, I think both teams would be better off.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But I mentioned Harbaugh and the Giants. I don't think that was announced. Have we talked about that on here?
I think it was like pretty strongly rumored, but hadn't happened last time we recorded.
So the thing I'll say about the Harbaugh thing is my decision on this hire entirely bases on Todd Monken.
Yeah.
Because the Monken thing is weird. It seemed like they announced, I guess the Giants didn't announce it, but Ian and Schefter and all the newsbreaker bloodsuckers all said that, Todd Monken's their OC. Like they said, like Harbaugh's bringing Monken. When Harbaugh got hired, like that was all the news. There was a report like in the last day or two that that's not a done deal. And he's obviously still in the mix for the Browns head coaching job. Schefter put that out today that maybe he's actually more in the mix than we're giving him credit for potentially. So maybe the Shieldhouse thing fell apart and maybe Monken's willing to have Schwartz stay as DC, which by the way, I actually think that'd be a good hire for Cleveland. People will crap on that if they hire Monken. I think Monken's awesome. I think Todd Monken's an unbelievable offensive coordinator. You look at what Baltimore's done while he's been there, and it's just they really took a step up. Like I saw someone do a chart of their EPA and success rate in the Roman years and then the Monken years, and then Lamar's stats in the per game in the Roman year and the Monken years, and it's stunning. It's a stunning difference because Lamar was unbelievable in the Roman years, but he took a step that we knew he took, but when you see it laid out statistically, you're like, wow, I can't believe I thought the first version of Lamar was so good. So if you're the Giants and you're able to bring Monken in to work with Dart, it's such a win. I understand the hire completely at that point. You can't get Monken, and now a lot of these OC guys are off the board, and you're kind of starting. They haven't really been interviewing either, like offensive coordinator guys, I don't think, the Giants. So you're in a weird spot if you don't get Monken. And if you're Monken, you should be saying, hey, New York, like your division rival is going through a disastrous offensive coordinator search right now. And I'm sure they would really like me to come be their OC. Give me $15 million to be the OC or whatever that number is. Like, and if you're the Eagles, you should be calling Todd Monken saying, we will give you $30 million to come be the OC.
I will pay you twice what Nick Sirianni makes.
Literally, like you literally should be doing that. But yeah, that's my take on it. It's entirely based on Monken.
Yeah, I agree. Like in a vacuum, I think Harbaugh's a good hire because again, it's a floor raiser in a situation that has needed it. He absolutely should have pulled the Liam Cohen and been like verbally agreed to it and then been like, oh, but I'm not working with Joe Shane, by the way, so him or me. I don't know that
he's
he
got
had
final say allegedly. Harbaugh in the contract. He does have final say, so who cares?
Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. In a vacuum, that's good, I think. Get that floor raiser, bring some competency. But if he was tied to Monken coming in as OC, and so they haven't looked for OCs, and then Monken leaves, it's a disaster. And so I'm with you. A lot of it depends on what happens with Todd Monken.
They made a DC hire. I can't remember who it was now. I think it was a guy who was it Harbaugh's old? It might have been Harbaugh's coordinator with Baltimore. I can't remember now, but I think people liked the hire.
Wilson.
Denard Wilson. Okay, that was the Eagles. I believe that was the Eagles guy who went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people like that hire. Let's talk about the next one. Atlanta got Stefanski. And I think overall, it's probably more worth talking about this as a Matt Ryan, Kevin Stefanski pairing. Stefanski, I think, how could you, that's a great hire. Like, if you're the Falcons, I came into this cycle thinking the Falcons were one of the worst jobs. I'll give Arthur Blank credit and the Falcons organization credit. Maybe it's that they hired 3 search firms to run their head coach search, by the way. Like, you couldn't have 2. You couldn't have 1. You needed 3 search firms.
You got to have a tiebreaker.
It's unbelievable to have 3 search firms. Arthur Blank is I think he literally owns search firms. So I think there's a weird.
Maybe they should have hired 3 head coaches.
Yeah, but they did a good job. I'll give them credit. They completely got the media to be like, this is one of, I'm doing my Peter Schrager voice. This is one of the best jobs out there. Arthur Blank, he doesn't fire guys. This should have been one of the worst jobs. They don't have a first-round pick. They don't have a quarterback. But they do have some talent on the roster. They did a good job in the draft last year. Pierce, Walker, Xavier Watts. You have talent on the defense. If you squint, you have Bijan Robinson and Drake London. If you figure out quarterback, or if you convince yourself Kirk Cousins is fine for a year, I get it. To me, I think we overcomplicate head coach searches too much and how attractive a job is. People out there saying oh, how could you take the Bills job? That owner and the GM suck. It's well, guess what? You get to coach Josh Allen. And that's pretty rare. I think sometimes we overrate how good or bad a job is based on the roster and the situation. 90% of what matters is quarterback. Do you have a quarterback that you could be the guy, or do you have the assets to go get the quarterback who can be the guy? So I love the hire for Stefanski. I don't think it's going to work because I don't think they have any avenue to getting that quarterback, this year. Maybe they have it next year.
Yeah, he's right back where he was at with no quarterback and no way to get one. Maybe Penix will be fine, but you've got to be really concerned. Okay.
Breaking news, not good for the Eagles. The Bills are promoting their own offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, to head coach.
Right. I think that's probably a good move on their part.
I am sad. I guess it makes sense now that there was no buzz with Joe Brady doing any OC interviews.
That makes a lot of sense. I kind of thought that's what they were going to do. They just got to get the defense figured out. And the biggest part they need to get figured out is they need to figure out their GM stinks and fire him and get a new one. But that's not going to happen. So long live Brandon Beane, I guess, as Patriots fans probably are chanting. But I do think promoting Joe Brady is probably the right move for them.
I don't know how I feel about this. I think I said this last week when we were talking about it. We love Joe Brady here. We both believe in Joe Brady. I really wanted him as the Eagles OC. What is he going to do in the building that he wasn't able to do already?
Hire a new defensive coordinator, I guess.
And I think that's where we landed last week. That was the big thing is that he has to nail the DC.
Yep.
Wow, so Brian Daboll, huh?
Maybe so. Where's he rumored to be at? By the way,
basically Tennessee or us, I think.
Don't forget that Matt Rule scapegoated Joe Brady back in 2021.
Shane and I in year one of this podcast where Joe Brady heads Carolina while he got fired. Was he fired the next year, or was he good in 21? Or was he good in 20?
21 is when he got fired.
So he was good in 20, and then yeah, with Teddy.
Yeah, because I liked him when he was at LSU as the pass game coordinator in 2019, and then he came to the NFL in 2020 as part of the Matt Rule staff, got scapegoated in 21, and then went to Buffalo.
Wow.
But yeah, we were big Joe Brady guys all the way back then.
I'm surprised. I really, really am surprised. This is not what I would have expected.
Really? That is kind of what I expected to happen.
I just didn't to make the big move to move on from your guy, and it's we need a change of scenery. I just wouldn't expect in-house for that. I would have expected them to go with maybe they do the Udinsky or Webb thing where you hire the young guy where you're trying to take the swing. Or I would have expected them to do the Daboll thing, I guess, where it's you go back to the guy who developed Josh Allen, who Josh Allen wanted. Maybe Josh Allen wanted Joe Brady. Maybe that's maybe that whole rumor about Daboll was wrong. But now Daboll's back on the market. We are fully on Daboll. Well, I don't think Shane's as crazy about Daboll as I am, but because of some of the dart young quarterback stuff. But okay, Jalen's how old is Jalen now?
I don't know, 28.
I mean, his brain, who cares? It's going to be, I'm joking. I've got his jersey behind me. That's a joke, everybody. But no, I'll tell you this. I'd rather someone be a little reckless with Jalen's running than what we saw this year. So if that's the Daboll criticism, I'll take that over Kevin Patullo's running him 1.6 times a game.
I do think that Jalen is smart enough not to spear a linebacker with his head instead of stepping out of bounds. Yeah. Jackson Dart did in that Eagles game. But yeah, I honestly can't stand Brian Daboll, but I think he's a good offensive mind. And back when this whole thing started, I think I had him as my number 2 guy for the Eagles behind Monken. So I would be thrilled, especially at this point where they're at in the search. I'd be thrilled if he's who they landed with. And I do think, I will say this, it's probably a good thing for the Eagles because there's a connection with Daboll to Hurts. If Daboll had gotten the Bills job and Joe Brady was on the market, I wouldn't think there would be any connection to the Eagles from him. So that probably swings in the Eagles' favor a bit if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, I think my ultimate stance is I really like Joe Brady. I don't mind this hire for Buffalo, but it does feel weird. It just feels weird that it feels like you had to make this big firing. You had to change the culture, to change the scenery. You had to do something different, and you bring in a voice that was already there. So I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I feel weird about it. If anybody else made the hire of Joe Brady, I'd like it more. Like, if the Raiders would have hired Brady, I'd been like, oh, that's great. Like, get Brady with Mendoza. Great job. But we talked about one last thing on the Falcons. Do you think Matt Ryan, like, what's your take on Matt Ryan being hired to be the president? I don't know if we've talked about this.
I don't know. I don't know if I have much of an opinion at this point.
I think that's probably the right stance. I think the people out there like clowning it and being like, how could you give Matt Ryan the GM job or the president job? Like, I think if you're like a franchise quarterback for 20 years who like can't rely on athleticism, you almost have to be like a computer for a brain. And you're evaluating every player on the field, on the other side of the field for defense, on your side of the field, on your personnel. Like, I understand that that's like, I was in an argument about this and someone was saying, well, then he should be a coach. And I get that. But like, I don't think Matt Ryan went from being like a postman to being a general manager. Like,
Yeah.
the way people are talking about this is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, what is he actually going to do as the president? Like, he's not the GM, right? I mean, presumably he's over the GM kind of directing football operations, but I mean, he's not the guy like writing scouting reports and making draft picks. So you got a former player that was the face of your franchise that by all accounts is a really sharp guy that's been around the game his entire life, and you want to put him in an admin position. I'm totally fine with it. Go for it.
And even if he does have final say, like, he's not going to just be like, I watch this guy and everybody in this room hates this guy, but I'm going to draft. Like, he's probably going to listen. He's probably going to put a team together like every GM does and listen to that team. And if if he has a guy ranked one spot above another guy where his guys think it's one spot different, maybe he makes that change. But like, he's not going to be like, this guy you all hate is the face of our franchise now. Like, I don't think Matt Ryan's that guy. I mean, I don't know. I don't, but again, like, your initial stance is probably right. Like, me even having a positive stance on it's probably wrong, but I'm just going against the other side that I think is being really dumb. Like, I think the whole stance of like, what a joke. Like, I can't believe people are comparing it to Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, who's also making like $20 million to broadcast a game each week, who's also going to play flag football in Saudi Arabia in 2 months, who was also partying with Alex Earl at 3 a.m. like 2 weekends ago, who also is involved in like a business that's cloning dogs to make dog clones. Like, Tom Brady is not focused on like being the Raiders GM and like the personnel thing. Like, I imagine Matt Ryan will be. Matt Ryan didn't even want to do the CBS studio job while having this job. Like, he's taking it seriously. He's not like dropping in as a minority owner because Mark Davis thinks it's cool to have Tom Brady around. It's a little different. Like, I think the comparison is doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. I just wait and see what happens with it.
Let me we'll buzz through the end of this here. The two last, I guess there's 3 jobs here. Green Bay hired a Green Bay GM, their assistant GM, and then Jeff Hafley as the new head coach. I like the Hafley hire. I'm not usually a DC guy, but the head coach in college, I thought he did an amazing job last year with the Green Bay defense. They finished like top 5 in a lot of stuff. That was before they got Parsons, and then this year,
you mean the Dolphins hired Hafley?
What did I say?
The Packers. I was like, wait,
Okay.
They fired LaFleur?
Yeah,
I missed that totally.
I meant to say, the Dolphins hired the Packers DC, and I thought he did a great job this year until Parsons went down. They were an elite defense, and a lot of people kind of crapping on the Hafley hire too, and I think it was a good job by Miami. Again, pretty bare cupboard there, though. And
I mean, if Tua is your quarterback, you better have a good defense. So
I don't think he will be. I think he'll be. I don't know where Tua will be. I don't know if he's like a guy you can be like, oh, I'll do a second chance. Like, I don't know. I have no interest in Tua or Kyler. If I'm a team out there like looking for a quarterback, I'd much rather do like the Davis Mills, Malik Willis before week 18. I would have said Tanner McKee. Not anymore. And 2 last ones. Tennessee hires Robert Saleh. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? And it's unbelievable that Tennessee made this a positive for their fans because everybody thought they were going to hire Matt Nagy. So when they hired Saleh, people were like, yes, it's not Matt Nagy. So like, good job by Tennessee to frame it that way, to make people think you're going to hire Nagy so that whoever you hired, everybody would celebrate.
The Browns need to take a leaf out of that playbook and say they're interviewing Kevin Patullo, and then
Jason Garrett.
Then whoever they hire, the fans will be happy about.
That's a good call. The Saleh thing's crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't like it.
He wasn't I don't think he was that great of a DC when he got hired to be the Jets head coach. I wasn't gung ho on the Saleh thing then. He was a horrible head coach. People have erased that, and it's there was weird media stuff constantly with Saleh. He did not handle that at all. And I know it's New York, it's different, but he was in the Rodgers stuff, but he did not handle it well at all. And then it's not they were fine this year. They were a bad defense. I understand they lost a lot of personnel, but it's not like he dragged this bad defense to be great. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that one either.
And then the last one is Baltimore hires Minter. The only thing I'll say about this is I think it's a joke what the NFL is doing to Brian Flores. How does Brian Flores not get this job? If you're going to hire a DC anyway, I think it would have been awesome for Baltimore to go hire Flores. You already have your quarterback. You don't have to worry about Flores being mean to Lamar like he was to Tua, which maybe we now can look back on and say maybe Tua is a weirdo. But I think Flores would have been such a perfect hire here. He makes that defense elite. There's no way that you can tell me Flores wouldn't have made that Baltimore defense elite day one, and then you just have to get an OC in there to get the offense to be good enough.
Do you think there's a chance he doesn't want another head coach job?
No, I think this is an NFL.
Okay.
I think it's collusion, 100%.
I was going to say because I could see in a scenario where and obviously, he may have said some things about Tua that he shouldn't have said, but there's a little bit of vindication for him in that even if maybe he said some things he shouldn't have, he was right in his analysis of the player, and the organization picked the player, paid the player, and it got another head coach fired after Flores. So I think there's some definite things going on there initially. I could see if I was him, I could see a scenario where it's I don't even want to put myself in that spotlight again. Everybody thinks I'm a genius DC right now. I don't even want to be the head coach again and have to deal with ownership in that way and be the face of an organization. I could see that. I don't know if that's true for him, and maybe it's not, but I did wonder if he kind of just wants to be a DC. But yeah, the Vikings, they hit the mother load if the NFL, whichever way it is, if the NFL's colluding against him or if he just doesn't want to be a head coach, that's the dream, right? You want a genius DC that just isn't going to be a head coach again.
Is there another coordinator? You have Fangio, Flores, you have McDaniels for New England as the OC. Is there any other coordinators that you can think of that are just that are for life coordinators? I don't even think we could say Monken is that. He's literally a finalist right now for a head coach job. I guess yeah, Spags is the other one. You're right. Yeah, Spags goes with that.
Maybe Vance Joseph, because he kind of failed at the head coach thing, and
he's too involved in circles this year. I think he'll get a job eventually if he keeps doing well. Same with Raheem. I think Raheem Morris might just be too good at the game to ever not be a candidate. Everybody loves him so much. He's the most beloved. Did you see the story that leaked this week? I guess it was
Jim Schwartz.
He might get.
Although at this point, he might be the Browns head coach by default.
Did you see the story about Raheem Morris and Shanahan this week? Kyle Shanahan got arrested for defending Raheem Morris 20 years ago and spent the night in jail, I guess. I think there was some misunderstanding with a cop and Raheem Morris, the scouting combine or something. And Shanahan stepped in and the cop arrested it. And people are saying you can count on Raheem Morris being 49ers DC next week. Shanahan literally got arrested for him. But yeah, the four. I'll just run through it real fast. We got to close the show. But Arizona looks like they're going to hire LaFleur, which I actually kind of like. I think that's a smart job. You look at the recent Rams OC hires that got to be head coaches. They've been pretty good. Liam Cohen, KOC. I think I'm missing there's another really good one that I'm forgetting. But yeah, they've been. Is it LaFleur? Matt LaFleur. So that's been the last three, and you could have said the same thing about all those guys. They weren't calling plays either. So. Yeah. I'm interested in LaFleur. Cleveland, who knows? Looks like it's going to be Shielhaas, Schwartz, or Monken, but it seems like the Shielhaas thing isn't going to happen. If it would have happened, it seemed like it would have yesterday because they had a second interview where they flew to LA and it seems like it was going to happen and then it didn't. The Raiders seems like it's going to be Clint. I don't even think it seems like that's pretty much a done deal. That's going to be Clint. Allegedly McDaniel's in the mix there, but he just fully announced that he's the Chargers OC. So I think that's over. And the Bills just hired Brady. So it's really just the Raiders, the Browns and the Cardinals left, and it looks like those are decided, I think. Or at least 2 of the 3. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so we will check back in on those next week when we do our Super Bowl preview. So lots of stuff going on, lots of pieces still falling. Again, appreciate you guys hanging with us throughout this season. We're going to have a lot of off-season content continuing to come your way on the network. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on your podcasting platforms so you get all of our episodes. I believe Chalk Talk will still have pretty much weekly shows as we do draft coverage. Some of the other shows will start to go to an every other week thing, but we'll have stuff in your podcast feed for your drives to work, your chores around the house, all of those things. So thank you guys for joining us for episode 222 of Chalk Talk. Again, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. Share the podcast with your friends. Helping us get this podcast out there really helps us out. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at ShaneHalfNFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. And we will catch you guys next time.